What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the pod. This is episode, 5 now?
5, 6, or something.
5, 6, I think it's 5. But today, we wanted to come at you with a brand new topic, not related to anything at all, see how that goes. It's going to be another shorter video.
Absolutely.
Because I've been getting feedback that's saying shorter is better.
Absolutely.
So, today, it's going to be around 20 to 30 minutes. But today, the topic we're going to talk about is picking your battles.
Oh, I love that.
So what do you think? I know you could talk a long time about that, but I want you to start by how do you think that one learns to pick their battles?
I think picking your battles is very, very important, especially when it comes to your life, because you can't fight every battle. You have to find battles that are within your range to fight. So when you're picking your battles, you have to think about what's going on in your life and what you can handle and maintain. Because if you can't maintain a situation and it's out of your reach, that means you have to fight a battle that you know that you're able to overcome. If you're trying to fight every battle, number one, you're gonna exhaust yourself. You're gonna keep stressing yourself. You're trying to fight all these battles, but you can't really do that. You gotta find battles that you know that you can fight for yourself.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: how do you know which battles to fight?
I think you know in your heart.
You think so?
Yeah, in your heart,
What makes
you'll
you
definitely get a sign that, okay, this is about, I know I can fight. I'm going into something where I know I can put my feet in the water and I know that I'll be okay. So it really comes down to your mind and knowing yourself.
I'll give you a perfect example, all right? So this may not be applicable to everybody, but it's definitely applicable for me. Like in school, sometimes I got a hard time focusing, right?
Right.
So I end up doing my work as soon as I get in class, going on classroom, finishing my work, and leaving.
Right.
Some of my teachers choose to get upset at me and do and things like that for leaving their class.
Right.
They call it skipping, things like that. Some of my teachers think it's not worth it to fight with me about that because I'm doing my work, I'm passing their class,
Right.
and why start arguments that don't really need to be started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a two-way street in terms of my story and stuff like that. Just because I think that there's definitely some things that I could do better, in terms of helping me focus. There's any number of things, work on your attention span, get diagnosed if you need it, which I might even end up going to a psychiatrist just to see if I have ADHD, because people have been telling me I have symptoms like that for a long time. So I'm just going to see if it's official. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that these teachers have to come to a choice. Is it worth, and I have to come to a choice, is it worth starting a battle? And I was talking to Miss Manning about this the other day. She's filling in for this new teacher for psych. And basically, I had finished all her work. I left her class for the last, 20 minutes or so. And I come back in after class is done, and I was asking her, I was like, we started off with a normal conversation, obviously, but as, paying tribute to the pod, it ran into a different, completely unrelated topic. We were talking about fighting your battles. And she was like, you have to learn, 90% of your battle as a human is learning which battles to fight. Right? Because sometimes you're going to fight a battle. And I was like, okay, well, how do you think that one learns to fight? Learns which battles that they have to fight. And she said, the best way to learn which battles you're supposed to fight is when you get kicked in the mouth because you picked the wrong battle.
I like
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is so true. And I'll tell you what, I picked tons of wrong battles in my life.
Definitely.
Right? And
Definitely.
I've started arguments with people that aren't even worth arguing with a lot of times. And the best thing for me to realize in terms of that is to remember that, everybody has their own perception.
Right.
Everybody has their own perception. I might be a person that's not worth talking to in somebody else's eyes. And that's completely okay. Right? Because what we have to remember is that everyone else's situation is not ours.
Right. Absolutely.
Do you think that's important to remember?
And I think that is a great point, because sometimes you exert your energy into battles that aren't even worth it. Sometimes I think on my journey, before in my early stages, I was really quick to anger. So it got me in a lot of situations that I really didn't need to be in because they were just little situations where people would start bickering at you, and then you get your anger controls you and you get involved in the situation knowing that you could have just walked away.
And they're holding you back, right?
And they're holding you back. So now you're having this conversation with this person, you're exerting all this anger and frustration, and it's just taking all the energy out you when you could have just said, look, I'm not dealing with this today. This is not for me. I know I shouldn't be saying all of this nonsense and like stuff like that, but because I was so quick to anger, all of that energy just wanted to be released out of me. So now I'm over here bickering with this person, yelling at them, saying stuff I shouldn't even be saying, getting upset. So I had to learn how to maintain my emotions.
Okay, and how did you progress through that? Well, what steps did you take?
For me, I just had to learn how to hold myself back. And what I mean by that is like, okay, I have to think about, what am I going to gain from this at the end of it? What's going to happen to me at the end of this situation? Are both of us just going to split our ways, not going to be friends after this? Or can we talk through it like actual adults, figure out what the issue is, and then come to an agreement about what we're arguing about? So that's kind of my thought process on how I like go through arguments if I have any.
Yeah, are you going to spend your time even after the argument thinking, oh, I should have said this,
right,
they should have said this, oh, I wish it went a different way, and things like that? Or are you going to just move on? And especially that's another important point. Like when things like that do happen, you have to understand that they did happen, you know, and there's not much you can really do about that. And I'm sure you've come a long way, right? I've known you for a long time, and you absolutely have come a long way. But I'm sure you're still not perfect, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
And I'm not perfect either.
Absolutely not.
I've come a long way myself. I've realized, especially like on the road, I used to be like, oh my God, this guy's going so slow. Now I'm just like, you know, just enjoy the ride. Like, this is crazy. We're on a planet spinning in the middle of nowhere, and I'm sitting here in a car that I have no idea how to build. If somebody was like, look, if cars didn't exist, and somebody was like, oh, yeah, and somebody came back we lived back in the day, and they're like, yeah, we got cars, build one. I'd be like,
I have no clue. I couldn't even think about putting that together. Like,
yeah, I would be like, yeah, no way. But the point that I'm trying to make is you just try to enjoy the ride. And I'll give you another perfect example. There's a story that happened to me probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So I'm not sure if you guys or if you like golf at all. You ever been golfing, like Top Golf or a driving range or anything like that? Yeah. So I went to the field. I played my first game of golf that day with my boy Ryan, who's been on the pod, obviously. We played golf. I did okay. I did not bad at all. But that later that day, after he dropped me off, I went to the field near the four-way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there was this guy sitting up by his minivan smoking his cigarette or whatever. He was just chilling there, and I was like, all right, you know, he's just minding his own business. He's chill. So I'm just sitting there. I tee up. I put a golf ball on the ground, a tee in the ground, and I start hitting. I start whacking the golf balls, man. I'm sitting there. I can't get a solid shot for the life of me. I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes, bro. And then I ended up getting upset, getting mad because I couldn't hit the ball. You know, golf is very frustrating when you can't hit, when you don't succeed, right?
Yeah, it's like any sport.
It's like any sport.
It's like any sport. When you can't get it right and you know you could do it, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. Like, even when you're just trying to make a simple shot, especially trying to do free throws, it's so upsetting.
Especially because earlier that day, I was doing fine playing an actual game of golf. My first game of golf ever. I was doing fine. I hit one. It went straight to the green. But anyway, like I said, and I get so upset. I throw my club. Not super hard, but I just toss the club.
Yeah.
And it starts doing cartwheels straight towards this guy's car. Swear to God, it goes straight towards this guy's car. Stops like a foot away from his car. A foot away from his car. I was like, oh my God, sir, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to throw my golf club at your car. And he was like, no, man, I understand your frustration. It's okay. And I was like, wow, that guy has some serious self-control. Because if someone did that to my car, I'll be like, dude, be careful next time. You know what I mean? He didn't even say, like, don't do that again. I mean, obviously, you know, I wasn't going to do it again because, you know, I have respect for other people.
And I think sometimes when people see the situation you're in, sometimes people have more patience towards you and have patience towards others, because some people have been in your shoes before and you never know it. And some people have gone through what you've gone through. So when you see people have more self-control, it's more likely because they've been in situations where they know that you're struggling in. So, like me, whenever I'm in a situation with, like, a friend or something, I've been in so many situations before that are like these situations that I'm in now, that I know how to be more mature about it. I know how to handle conversations now because I've been through so many conversations where I've exerted anger and said things I shouldn't have said and hurt people I shouldn't have hurt. That's really now I understand how to be more gentle and more cautious about how I approach people.
Yeah, and that's like some of the tactics I've learned from just reading books, really. I swear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just read books, and then the books will tell you just to, obviously, just think before you speak, number one. And number two, just try not to say anything that you could regret later. Right? And part of that comes with concealing your intentions a lot of times.
Facts.
And a lot of times, I was just watching a video about this yesterday. Michael Singer was talking about this. And it was talking about navigating difficult conversations at like the workplace, but it really applies everywhere else. And what he basically said was that when you're in a workplace and you need to, have a difficult conversation with somebody, you have to sit there and you have to say, look, you have to ask yourself, you say, is there anything that I am doing wrong that is causing the situation? Number one.
Self-reflection.
Is there anything that I am doing wrong to cause this person to be this way, or that made this happen, that I'm getting upset at?
Right.
So that's the first question. Right. And once you understood that maybe you don't have anything to do with the situation, then you have to ask, okay, now you go to the second level. Is there anything that is just my personal self, my personal opinions and beliefs that is making me feel this way? For example, is this person doing something just a different way? And it's okay for them to do it a different way. I just don't understand that way. Right? And that's okay. A lot of times, for example, everyone has their own, shot in basketball. Yeah. Everyone has their own way that they shoot. They're not wrong. They're not right for doing it a different way. Right. Just because you think that it looks weird, if it works, it works.
It works, right.
You know what I mean? So then you have to ask yourself, is there anything of my personal beliefs that is causing me to feel this way about the way that they're doing, the way that they're handling themselves?
Definitely.
And once you realize if there's no personal beliefs that are causing you to feel that way, then it's time that you have to, put your pride aside.
And have that conversation.
Even if it may be difficult.
Absolutely. And I think difficult conversations, at the end of it, it will make the two people better.
Absolutely.
Honestly, because if it's handled the correct way,
that's
both people will come out likely more stronger, because they know that, okay, listen, let's say we had two different perspectives or whatever, and we were able to communicate, because communication is the biggest part of any argument, entanglement, anything. Communication has to be the most important part. And a lot of times communication is not there, and that's why arguments happen. That's why a lot of things happen, because people don't communicate. It's like, if you don't communicate with your parents where you're going, you're most likely going to try to figure out, be worried, anger that you didn't tell them where you were going. So you could have avoided that simply because of communication. And that really happens a lot in my life. Like, I just go out the house. I rarely ever tell my parents. I'm just like, yeah, they'll call me or whatever. I'll just text.
You didn't even tell them?
No, I just walked right out the house.
Really? Interesting.
Went to track. They're like, where are you? You didn't even tell us you were leaving. This, and this. I'm like, wow, okay. I could have avoided this simply just by texting my parents, hey, I'm going to track.
Or just letting them know.
Or just let them know, whatever. Right. Could have avoided that. Same thing with an argument, anything. Communication is always the biggest part. So if you learn how to communicate and express your emotions effectively, it makes the argument or whatever way better. It makes it easier for people to understand how you're feeling.
Absolutely. I can relate to that, even the exact example that you just gave. Like, for example, during COVID, my parents, I would just, a lot of times, even before COVID, honestly, I would do the same thing. I would just leave the crib and just,
I would
just go with my friends, go to the courts, go whatever, do whatever.
Yeah.
And my parents would literally just sit me down when I got home, and they'd be like, or just call me up and they just tell me, like, all you have to do is tell us you're leaving.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
It's so simple.
And then your pride gets in the way. You're like, oh, I don't need to tell my parents this. Yeah. I don't need to tell my parents nothing.
Right.
And then you realize, like, after, I don't know, a couple hours, couple minutes, whatever, you realize that it's so simple what they're asking. And now all I have to do is tell my parents, hey, I'm going outside.
Right.
And they're like, okay.
Right, and
that's it.
They just let like.
I don't even have to tell them where I'm going necessarily. Like they're just like, and you know, it's one of the reasons why I love my parents. It's like one of the many reasons. You know, it's very simple. Like just because if you can communicate effectively and you give good, solid reasons behind, you know, why you're feeling that way, then they'll listen and they'll try their best to either give you what you want, or if they can't give you fully, then they'll make a compromise to some degree. But there are some things that are not compromisable. You know what I mean? Like safety,
definitely.
Health, things of that nature. They're just non-compromisable. You know, like my mom would never let me play football back in the day because, and I used to like annoy her about it. I used to be like, Mom, come on, everybody. I know all my friends play football, this and that. And, you know, she would just be like, I'm sorry, you know, I'm not budging.
Right.
You know, they got NFL players sitting there not letting their kids play football.
Right.
Because they got messed up.
Right.
And even nowadays, I do realize that she had some merit behind that. You know, it's not just because she wanted me to suffer because I didn't want to play football or because I couldn't play football. She had a genuine reason behind that. And I think if you really look behind what your parents or what anybody's saying, you can really start to actually understand their intentions. Because, like I said, it's important to conceal your intentions, but it's very hard. It's difficult because even sometimes your face will reveal what your true intentions are.
Absolutely.
You know, or a tone, you know?
Yeah.
If someone says, I love you in the wrong way, for example, or anything, they're like, or like, yeah, and then like they're all upset about it, that's different than actually genuinely telling someone.
And I think mood and tone, like you just said, it's a very big part of communication because a lot of things can become skewed because of the way you said it. Like, example, like I'll go back to my parents. Like they'll be talking to me and it's not what I said. It's the way I said it to them. So now they're thinking that I'm coming at them in a certain way. And I'm like, I'm not coming at you in a certain way. It's just like, maybe I was angry or maybe I was upset because something didn't go my way. So I might have been angry and I was in a mood. So I said something in the wrong way. So now you have to think about, okay, even when you're angry, you have to understand how to talk to people without expressing your anger. And that's very hard to do because anger, when it consumes you, it's like a fire. It's like a raging fire. It just consumes your whole body. And you don't want to talk to people. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to do this, and this. But expressing your emotions clearly and effectively while angry, that's one of the biggest things. If you can learn that in life, I think you'll be one of the best, most successful people in the world.
100%. If you look at the most successful people and you ask them what their most valued skill is. Oh, I'm sorry. That's probably mad loud. But, yeah, if you ask them what their most valued skill is and what's gotten them the farthest, I think it was some crazy number. Like, they did a survey, and it was some crazy number. Like, 90% of the successful people valued their communication skills over everything else.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, and even if it'll get you out of so many problems.
Right.
You know, if you could just sit there and not, like, beat around the bush, don't just try to necessarily, and I hate to say it, but like don't try to just, and I struggle with this too. Number one, like I've had people that ask to be on the pod and I just I gotta be honest with you, bro, like I don't want them on the pod, not everybody, you know what I mean, like it's an invite only basis, to be honest with you. And Joe Rogan's podcast is the same way. We're not on the same level as Joe Rogan's podcast, clearly, but
there's still
we still have standards,
boundaries and like things, guidelines you still roll by. Your personal guidelines, your personal boundary.
Whether I would like to listen to this person talk about what we talk about, right?
This is what you do, and you have set boundaries and guidelines for who you want on here and things you specifically want to talk about. And now that's on that person to understand it, not be offended by it because there's no personal motivations behind it. But it's just something that they have to understand. But
that's one of the problems for me because these people ask me, oh, could I be on the pod? Could I be on the pod? And I'm like, yeah, I'll let you know.
And I do. And sometimes I really do that too because, number one, my heart is always like, don't try to like hurt them or make it feel like it's personal. But the other side of me is like, you have to tell them straight up.
Because then, then they're going to be waiting and stuff, right?
Yeah. if you don't tell them straight up and you elongate it, it's only going to make them feel, they're just going to continue to feel that emotion and feeling. So now they're going to keep asking you questions because you didn't tell them straight up.
It's kind of like being in a relationship that's not good for you and just putting off breaking up with that person.
Right.
It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And I got a friend that's in that situation. I'm not going to name names or nothing like that. But, you know, it's difficult. That kind of situation is very difficult because, you know, you don't want to hurt that person's feelings. You care about them. You maybe you really do care about them. But the longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be. Right?
Yeah.
And you know, and like I said, in terms of the podcast, you know, these people ask me, they're like, "Oh, you got to get me on the pod, bro. You got to get me." I'm like, yeah, I'll let you know. I'm not gonna let them know, but I will eventually. I'm gonna let them know. I promise to you. I promise to everybody that's on the pod, everybody that watches. And the biggest thing, I still want them to gain as much from this podcast as possible. I do want to help them, but I just don't think that. I don't know how to put this. I just don't think that they can help others. I don't want to say that either,
no.
bro.
I think what you're trying to say is you still want them to take away something.
Right, of course.
But I think that it's just our job to put it out there. And you want them to take what we're saying.
Yeah.
So
also, bro, I'm not even close to some of these people that want to be on the pod. It's the biggest thing. Like there's this kid I saw him one time. Like, and he was like following me and stuff, and like he's cool. I don't have a problem with him.
Sure.
But I just don't necessarily want him on the podcast.
And that's a valid reason, and you don't have to explain that reason because it's yours. What you do, this is yours.
You don't think I should have to explain it though?
I mean, for me, if I'm doing something and I could, like my brand, like I'll use my brand as an example. Like, sure, people might want to collab with me, but I'm not gonna allow you to overtake and oversee what I'm doing.
And I'm gonna be somebody that you don't want to collab with.
Right. And just because, listen, I got somebody taking pictures for me, doing videos for me, stuff like that. And I get that. That's cool. I appreciate you for doing that. I appreciate you for supporting me. But now when you want access to like all of my accounts, you want to start running stuff like this. That's where I got to take a step back and be like, well, I run this. I do this. I appreciate you for trying to help me, but I'm going to learn the process myself and learn how to do it for myself. And it's just healthier for me.
I think it's healthy to have boundaries. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, having boundaries for yourself in life, it's very important because if you don't have any boundaries or any guidelines that you work off of, it's kind of just like free nilly-willy. Like you're just allowing people to kind of like overtake your stuff and take what you do.
Right.
So now when you hold your business, like I said, I use my brand for example. If I just allowed everybody to do collabs with me, take my accounts, do this, what am I running? I'm not even running the brand.
Running a charity.
I'm running a free charity, just handing out shirts, giving away free stuff.
Unfortunately, nothing in life is free.
Right, no, absolutely not.
Unless you genuinely, like, this is free. We're doing this for free because we have something to say. We want people to gain something from it.
Understand this. And it's
like
just
I said, it's not about the money. We said it in the first, I think the third podcast or something like that. It's not about the money.
I think knowledge is way more important than money. Knowledge 100%. Equals power.
I will tell you. I'll give you a perfect real world example. I have been to open houses, right, for real estate. I didn't get paid to go to these open houses. I went to these open houses because I want to learn what people want to see. Like people ask you, for example, how far is the hospital? How far is the nearest highway, train station, grocery store, whatever?
You have to adapt to their life. You have to figure out what these people need and what these people want.
And how you're going to get it there.
Is there a good school for their kids?
School, big one.
Is the area nice? Like, is there transportation? Is it busy? Is it loud? Like, what is the type of setting that they like to be in?
And
so you got to understand all of that. And I want to go. You. Yeah, they got to trust you. I want to go back to what we said about relationships because we were talking about communication. How communication is so vital. So you say your guy was in that relationship and he was elongating it, and
Still is.
Yeah. So I think you have to communicate what your intentions are at the start of the relationship. And then as you continue and you see that something's not happening the correct way or something's just not feeling right in your heart, you got to start to communicate and understand that, listen, no matter what I say to you, I have feelings for you. You have feelings for me. We were both in this for however long. But I think it's time that we go our separate ways. Because it's not right in my heart. And even if it's right, sitting right in your heart, you got to understand that there's no personal motivation behind this. I have to do what's right for me. And I don't want to hurt you. So if you can communicate that effectively and understand that difficult conversations have to happen.
It's never an easy thing.
It's never an easy thing, but it will build your character tremendously.
Yeah.
And I've had many difficult conversations with my parents, with friends, teachers, family. Like, you have to have difficult conversations in order to build yourself.
And the bigger picture behind all of this is that you have to pick which conversations are necessary.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, we wrapped it all up behind the topic that we started this pod with. We might start going in a new direction with this pod. Like, we might have people sending in 2 different topics and see if we could connect them throughout this pod,
Definitely.
the 30-minute pod.
Put them in the comments. Let us know. Give us feedback. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know. Like always, thank you for tuning in and listening to what we have to say. We appreciate the views, the likes, the shares.
All the
we
support.
love all of that.
Anything.
All of the support. So like, subscribe, comment. See you on the next one.
Make sure you like and subscribe now.
Let's do it.
I appreciate you for coming out, man.